We're jumping right into a really tense developing situation in Manipur, India. There's a hostage crisis that has put the entire region on edge, and we're going to break down what the reports are saying, who the key players are, and maybe most importantly, why this is way more than just a single isolated incident.
So everything we're about to cover comes straight from this local news report dated March 12th. I mean, the headline alone tells you just how serious this is. So let's get into the details.
At the heart of this whole crisis is this number. Over 20 civilians, and we're talking about women and children included here, they've reportedly been taken hostage. This just immediately raises the stakes and shows you the very real, very human side of this conflict.
All right, so the flashpoint for all of this, the thing that kicked it all off was this incredibly dramatic series of events that went down on National Highway 202.
You know, it seems like it all happened so fast. On Wednesday morning, right there on the highway, militants and a mob reportedly hijacked a bunch of vehicles. And what's kind of wild is that this all happened even though there was a heavy presence of central security forces right nearby. The whole thing apparently started with gunfire and then just blew up into this mass abduction.
Okay, so let's be really clear about who's who here, at least according to the report. On one side, you have the hostages, who are identified as Tangkhul Naga civilians, and on the other, the alleged perpetrators are suspected Kuki militants who were apparently helped by a Kuki mob. It's really important to keep these groups in mind because these ethnic dynamics are pretty central to what's going on.
An event this big, well, it doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? The fallout was immediate. So now, let's take a look at how community leaders and the government started responding to the chaos. The reaction from the victims' community was, you can imagine, incredibly swift and incredibly sharp. The Tangkhul Naga Long, or TNL, they didn't see this as some random act. They called it a pre-planned act of violence, and they even accused security forces of being passive spectators. I mean, you can just feel the anger and the sense of betrayal in those words.
And they didn't just stop with a strong statement. Nope. The TNL issued a 2-hour ultimatum. They demanded the hostages be rescued, putting the government on the clock, and making it crystal clear that they would hold them responsible for whatever happened next. The pressure was on, big time.
So, how did the government respond? Well, with an official appeal from the chief minister. And the tone here is totally different. It's a plea, really, a call to de-escalate, urging for the safe and unconditional release of everyone involved. It's that formal, official voice trying to bring the temperature down.
Then, the government laid out its 4-step plan. And you know, it's pretty much the crisis response playbook. Step 1, take it seriously. 2, get officials on it. 3, ask for calm. And 4, promise to find who's responsible. They're trying to show they have a handle on it, but that clock is still ticking.
Okay, so to really grasp the seriousness of this hostage crisis, we have to zoom out a bit. Because as the reports make very clear, this was not an isolated incident, not by a long shot. It was actually part of a much bigger, rapidly escalating pattern of violence.
Just look at this timeline. It shows how quickly things were getting out of hand. We're talking 3 major flashpoints in less than 2 days. It kicks off with a gunfight on Tuesday, then bam, the hostage crisis Wednesday morning, and just a few hours after that, another confrontation. This paints a picture of a region that is truly on the brink.
Let's dig into that first incident a little more. So on Tuesday, a gunfight breaks out in the Kamjong district, and this really sets the stage for all the chaos that followed.
And the details from Kamjong are pretty telling. The report says suspected Kuki militants just opened fire on Tangkhul Naga farmers completely unprovoked. And it wasn't just a firefight, they also allegedly looted people's phones and cash, which just ramped up the fear and caused what was described as widespread panic.
All right, now for that third flashpoint. On the very same day as the hostage-taking, another confrontation was brewing in Gangpokpi district, but this time the players were a little different.
Now this is a really crucial piece of the puzzle. Because here, it wasn't one ethnic group against another. It was the Central Security Forces, the Assam Rifles, against local Kuki villagers. The whole thing was over these bunkers that officials said were blocking their patrols. This just adds another complicated layer, showing that the tension isn't just between local communities, but between those communities and the state itself.
So we've got 3 different incidents with multiple groups clashing all over the place. Let's try to pull all this together and get a clear sense of who's who in this incredibly volatile landscape.
So let's just break down the players one more time. You've got Kuki militants and volunteers who are identified as both the alleged hostage takers and the bunker builders.
You have the Tangkhul Naga civilians, who were the victims in 2 of these incidents. Their community body, the TNL, is the one demanding action. And then you have the state and central forces, who are in this really tricky spot of responding to one crisis while being seen as the aggressors in another.
So the most important thing to take away from all this is that what we've unpacked isn't just a string of random events. It's a really clear symptom of a region that's grappling with these deep-seated ethnic tensions that are just ready to erupt at any moment. These flashpoints are a snapshot of a much, much bigger problem.
And that leaves us with a really difficult, big-picture question. When you have communities, armed groups, and official security forces all clashing with each other in different ways, what does a path back to stability even look like? It's just incredibly complicated, and right now, there are no easy answers.